Good evening and welcome. It is 7:03, so we'll go ahead and get started. This is the November 29th, 2023 public hearing of the Land Use Commission. The City Code directs this body to hear applications for map and text amendments, special uses including planned developments, zoning relief, and appeals from decisions of the zoning administrator, as well as to make recommendations regarding the city's long-term planning goals and objectives. Depending on the type of matter, this commission will either make a final determination or send its recommendation to City Council. Ms. Jones, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aravallo,
Here.
Commissioner Halleck, Commissioner Hugo,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Linwall,
Here.
Commissioner Medinchev, Commissioner Pucktell, Commissioner Westerberg,
Here.
Chair Rogers.
Here. So with 6 members present, we do have a quorum. Also present from city staff tonight, our neighborhood and land use planner Megan Jones, Assistant City Attorney Brian George, and Zoning Administrator Melissa Klotz. This is a formal hearing, and there are rules that govern our proceedings. Most importantly, only one person speaks at a time so that all testimony may be accurately recorded. Anyone who wishes to address the commission regarding any matter on tonight's agenda will have the opportunity to do so at the appropriate time. Our procedure is to hear from the staff on the documents on file and then receive testimony and other evidence from the applicant or appellant. After that, persons wishing to make a statement regarding the matter will have a chance to do so. Any person with a legal interest in property located within defined notification requirements of the subject property may present evidence, reasonably question witnesses, or seek a continuance of the hearing. When all supporting and opposing testimony and statements have been heard, the applicant or appellant will be given the opportunity for rebuttal or a closing statement. Then the commission will close the record and begin deliberations to consider the standards. The commission will make formal findings of fact based on the testimony and evidence presented, guided by the standards, the commissioner's knowledge of our community, and the recommendations of staff. All testimony is taken under oath. Although we do not apply the strict rules of evidence, please limit your testimony to the proposal as it relates to the standards contained in the zoning ordinance and corresponding staff memorandum. When testifying, please state your name and address for the record and sign in on the provided comment sheet. Our meetings are audio and video recorded. Please make sure that you're at a microphone when asking questions or making statements so that you can be properly recorded. All proceedings are subject to broadcast at a later date. Any matter not concluded at tonight's hearing will be continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting. We have 2 matters on the agenda this evening. I'm just going to take roll call to make sure they're both here. Is the applicant for 10-2, let me try this again, 1002 Asbury Avenue present, and 2505 McCormick Boulevard. All right, thank you. At this point, we will begin by the approval of the meeting minutes from our November 8th meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to look through those? And is there a motion?
I move approval of the November 8th minutes.
It's been moved by Commissioner Lindwall. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Westerberg. Is there any corrections, edits that need to be made? Hearing none. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Or anyone who was not present, which I believe is Commissioner Hugo and I.
Abstain.
So with a 4-0 vote, the minutes are approved and as recorded. We'll begin with the matters on the agenda this evening. The first one, which is 1002 Asbury Avenue. Ms. Klotz, would you please read that into the record for us?
Michael McMahon, applicant and property owner, submits for major variations for the construction of a 1-car attached garage. The applicant requests building lot coverage of 30.7%, where 30% is the maximum permitted coverage, section 6827, and for a rear yard setback of 3.0 feet, where 30 feet is the minimum required rear yard setback, section 6828A4, in the R1 single-family residential district. The Land Use Commission is the determining body for this case in accordance with section 63810 of the Evanston Zoning Code.
Thank you. At this point, I'm going to ask anybody who may be speaking to us on this matter to be sworn. So if you'd raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings? No. Thank you. And if you would like to come up to the lectern, please state your name and address for the record.
Mike McMahon, 1002 Asbury Avenue, Evanston, Illinois, 60202.
All right, thank you. And if you'd please tell us about your project.
Sure. Well, we have a corner lot on the corner of Lee and Asbury in southeast Evanston. My wife and I back here purchased the home in January. We're looking to build a single-car garage. The lot itself is oddly shaped. It's in the corner. We have no alley access. The garage itself wouldn't alter the footprint of the space much. It would be built over an existing, where a former carport existed, which is now just a concrete slab. It's fairly basic, single car, nothing extravagant. I know of the 24 single-family homes in the block, we're the only one without a single-car garage. We have a 4-month-old at home, hoping to have a couple others, and it'd be nice to be able to provide some protection getting in and out of the house as well. A nearly identical variance was approved by this body in 2012. We've received approval from adjacent neighbors to the north and west, so that only neighbors that would be directly impacted. And they also, the same neighbors, gave approval for the project in 2012. So that's what we're hoping to do. The space is a bit tight, but like I said, it's really the only space we have to work with, just giving the lot location and size.
How does this differ, and if so, in what ways from the original or from the plan that was approved in 2012?
Not much. We removed one, so we had to, in order to avoid requesting another major variance, I guess it'd be the setback that's supposed to be 30 feet, or no, I'm sorry, the setback that's supposed to be 5 feet, we pushed back to 5 feet instead of, I think in the 2012, it was something like 2 or 3 feet setback. So that's the only major difference. There's a couple inches here or there, literally, 1 or 2 inches here or there in terms of garage size, but nothing substantive, I would say.
All right. Any questions from the commission?
So is the setback from the neighbor's garage then 5 feet? Because I notice that's right up smack against your property as well.
Yeah, so there's 3 feet between our proposed garage and their property line, and then there'd be 6 feet between, it'd be 6 feet between our garage and their garage. Yeah. And they've given approval as well and things like that. So, and it wouldn't obstruct their view. I mean, it's literally just a garage without windows or anything. So.
And it is an attached garage.
Attached, yeah. We figured that would make most sense, and it would, have the best chance of getting approval, and just given the tight space. Yeah.
Right. I don't think you could put a detached there. Without
No, you'd have a few inches.
bicycle rack, maybe.
Yeah.
Any other questions from commissioners? All right. Anybody else here who wants to say anything? If not, if there's anything you'd like to say in summation?
I mean, it would really mean a lot to us. We're first-time homeowners. Going to be a long-time residents here in Evanston, and with the family, I think it would mean a lot to us. So,
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
With that, I will close public testimony, and we will go into deliberation. General thoughts from everybody? I think I can kind of guess based on the comments and
Lack thereof.
lack thereof.
I think it makes sense. I mean, it's a tight site. Obviously, it used to be a 2-flat once upon a time, and I think that, making this a functional single-family resident with an attached garage makes a lot of sense.
Anybody else have anything before I go through standards?
Just a question of clarification.
Is your microphone? Yeah.
The previous, when this came up in 2012, it was a different owner. Okay, got it. Same property, different.
Same property, different owner, but the project was never completed under the previous owner.
Right.
And so this couple is now looking at resurrecting that, as it were.
Got it. I caught that you recently bought the property and then 2012. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
All right. In order to approve any project like this, there are a series of standards that we must find are met. There are 7 of them, and I will run through those quickly. The first being the requested variation will not have a substantial adverse impact on the use, enjoyment, or property values of adjoining properties. We've heard testimony from the applicant that the neighbors all seem to be in favor of this. The fact that something like this was approved, that there has been a carport there at one point, seems to me to be makes sense that something like this would not drastically impact the neighboring properties, and therefore I say standard 1 is approved, or standard 1 is met. Number 2, the requested variation is in keeping with the intent of the zoning ordinance. One of the things that we try to do is get parking off streets, but we also like to have enclosed parking wherever possible. And so for something like this, where they're asking for a 1-car garage, which is about as large as they could get, they can't do a 2-car garage, which would be the preference of the zoning ordinance, but at least they're getting more into compliance than they currently are with what we're seeking. I believe that standard is met. Number 3, the alleged hardship or practical difficulty is peculiar to the property. This is one of those lots that we see in Evanston quite often, where it's a corner lot that a backyard or something like that has probably been sold off at some point, therefore there's no alley access. We see this all over the place, although trying to put parking on a lot this size is very difficult, and therefore I believe that this standard is met because trying to fit any sort of parking onto this makes it very difficult. Number 4, the property owner would suffer a particular hardship or practical difficulty is distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were to be carried out. As I mentioned, we do try to give people garages wherever possible. It makes sense. Something like this was approved previously by a different body that has been merged into this body. But trying to have any sort of indoor parking on this lot would be very, very difficult, with the exception of this particular proposal that's before us. Number 5, the purpose of the variation is not based exclusively upon a desire to extract additional income from the property, or there is a public benefit if additional income is extracted. This is a single-family home that people will be living in. They are not renting out the garage, so there's no reason to believe that there's any additional income that will be generated by this, so that standard is met. Number 6, the alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property. The current homeowners are newer homeowners for this particular property. And this is a situation, like I said, that where the lots were divided in such a way on a corner lot that situation created not having enough room to build a garage that would be in compliance. So I believe that standard is met. And number 7, the requested variation requires the least deviation from the applicable regulation among the feasible options identified. We did hear the homeowner say that they were trying to limit the number of variation requests that they would need from us. It does seem that the garage is of a size that is sensible for a 1-car garage, and so I believe that standard is also met. Is everyone in agreement with my finding on standards? And with that, is there anybody who would like to make a motion?
Sure. I would note that the department recommended a condition about stormwater collection. So I move that the commission grant the requested major variation for 10002 Asbury Avenue, 23Z ZMJV-0062, with the condition that the stormwater collected from the garage addition drain on-site and in a manner that does not adversely affect neighboring properties.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
So it's been moved by Lindwald, seconded by Westerberg. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Do you want to take the roll for me? Take the vote for me, please.
Commissioner Aravalo?
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Linwall,
Yes.
Commissioner Westerberg,
Yes.
Chair Rogers.
Yes, so with 6 votes in favor and none in opposition, the motion carries, and it is approved, so you can work with staff on what the next steps will be on getting your garage in place. All right, thank you. That brings us to our second case for this evening, which is 2505 McCormick Boulevard. Is this also you, Ms. Klotz? If you would please read that into the record when you get a moment.
Lisa Gendel, applicant and property owner, submits for a major variation to store a recreational vehicle camper trailer within the front yard at a single-family residence in the R1 Single Family Residential District. The applicant requests to store the recreational vehicle camper trailer in the required front yard on the existing driveway where storage of recreational vehicles is only permitted within a building or in a rear yard, and not in a front or side yard or in any court area that opens toward a public street. Section 6463, Table 4A28. The Land Use Commission is the determining body for this case in accordance with Section 63810 of the Evanston Zoning Code.
Thank you. If you're going to speak to us on this matter, if I could swear you in, please, by raising your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth throughout the course of these proceedings? Thank you. And if you'd please come up to the lectern and state your name and address for the record.
Lisa Gendel, 2505 McCormick.
Peter Panio to have the same address.
All right, thank you. And if you'd please tell us about the application.
Well, I'll do the majority of the talking. I had to put Lisa's name on the application since she's formally the property owner, but I really initiated all this. I was the one who convinced her that we should get an RV, so it's my fault. So going back, it was a few years of research to find out all the ins and outs of ownership and use of an RV and if it would work for us. And this was pre-COVID, and when it came to the point of making the decision to get one, it occurred to me that we should check that it's allowed in Evanston to park it in the driveway when we need it to be there in between trips. And I called the police department, and they told me that was fine. And then subsequently, we got it a year ago, and just, I think it was August, that we got a call from the city saying that we were in.
Sure, could you just speak a little more? I guess I have trouble picking you up.
The city informed us that we were in violation of an ordinance which didn't allow the parking, relatively full time in the driveway that opens to the main road. And she said it was the city we should have asked and not the police station. I figured that since they were the enforcers of the laws, that they would know the laws. So unfortunately, I didn't know, I didn't learn that soon enough. So what else do you need to know? Do you want me to go over everything I pretty much put in the application, or?
You don't have to go word for word, but just the highlights you think that make the case. That
Okay, so, according to what's required, we don't have any of those facilities. We don't have a rear alley. We don't have any space at the rear of the house, even if we did have an alley. And even if there was both, there would be no way to maneuver such a vehicle of that size in and out of there.
It's a very unusual location and lot.
Yeah, so we felt that due to the unique nature of the lot and our situation with our neighbors, that it wouldn't really impact anybody because we have two neighbors basically. Well, we have some behind as well, 3, but the one to the south that also opens to McCormick, the house is set back. They can't even see our driveway in the RV from their house. And this woman supported us with a letter saying she not only doesn't object to it, she supports our application for variance. And the neighbor to the north, we never see because there's a privacy fence, there's a lot of bushes and trees.
It's actually not a neighbor, it's the back of the cul-de-sac of a different street of Martha Lane. We don't really have any neighbors
Right.
on the north side. We
And
have one neighbor on the south.
And that, the north side doesn't open up to McCormick, so we have
Right.
no contact or interaction with them at all. The neighbors at the back, we share a fence, and we don't see them either, so they don't see us,
That's McDaniel, it's not even visible,
right?
as I say.
So
It's-
really, there's one neighbor
Right.
that's immediately next to us that we have interaction with, that we know that, would have any say in whether, it's a disturbance to her in any way. The other issue is, I suppose, the impact on us if we couldn't park it there, because, we take, or plan to take, we've only had it a year, plan to take, maybe half a dozen trips, camping trips of varying lengths. And in between the trips, it really needs to be accessible to us for, maintenance. There's always something, after thousands of miles of riding on bumpy roads and, it gets shaken about a bit, and whenever we get back, there's always something to put right, to repair. Often, I need to go on the internet and research how to do something, and YouTube has just about everything you ever need. I'm also a member of a couple of Facebook RV groups, and so they're very helpful in if you have a question or problem, you put it there, and they will chime in and with their experience tell you, what to do. So, this process for any one problem, it could take anywhere between a week or two to sort it out, figure it out, get parts that needed, order them. So to have to put the RV in storage the day after we get back, say, and then get it only the day before we leave, it's really impractical. And if we were held to that, we'd really have to give it up. There'd be no way we can use it, in a practical way.
We also, the location again is such that we don't even have the ability to park on McCormick. Our driveway is it for us, for our own parking, for our guest parking, and for the RV in the camping season. And we wouldn't have done that were we not, fully satisfied that there was enough room. It's a very large driveway, but it is our only option for anything, for our guests, for ourselves, and we are managing just fine with our cars, our guest cars, our visitors, deliveries, and having the RV there during the season. So it will go into storage for winter, but we'd like permission to continue as we've been doing. It seems to work fine and not be bothering anyone.
I have a couple questions for you on season and that sort of stuff. So what is the season that you keep referring to? I mean, I know it's the summer, but are we talking April to October? Are we talking March through November?
Yeah.
What is the,
We bought it last November, and as soon as we got it back, pretty much it went into storage. So I can't remember the exact date, but December, January, February. I think I took it out, when was it, May?
Yeah.
Yeah. Took it out in May, so it's been there June, July, August, September, October. It's been 6 months now, and it's due to go into storage soon.
It would be in storage already, except for this, because we didn't want to put it in storage if it was
So
a permanent situation for us.
so we're looking at roughly a 6-month on, 6-month off
Sure.
sort of season. And during the May through roughly November area that we're talking about, how many days are you traveling with this? And I realize it's a new sort of thing, but
Very
it's,
new.
do you intend to be gone for extended weekends and then back? Or is it you're gone for 3 weeks and then you're back, or?
In the summer, we did go, it was June into July, was it 3.5?
We took 2 3-week trips. They're longer trips. It's too much work for a weekend
Yeah,
trailer kind of
Just hitching it
camping.
up and
Right.
all the work involved. It's more long-term trips. Another one was 10 days. Another one was a more local one. Wisconsin was, I think, a week. So,
Longer trips, though.
Okay.
but this is just, we're just getting into it, and hopefully we plan to do, longer trips out west, national parks and things, so.
Okay. Are there other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Westerberg?
Excuse me, you indicated that the RV needs to remain hitched to the truck, or no?
No, not
The
at all.
opposite.
So they can be separated?
Oh, they are all the time. The only,
Okay.
as I explained in the application, the only time that they're hitched is when we arrive, to give us time to, park it, and then do all the landing, as it's called, landing gear, disconnect everything, and then, it's not practical for us to have it combined because the truck is my transportation, as, one of our cars. And also, when we leave, that's when it's reconnected, and it takes, a couple of hours to get it all ready to go. So that's the last thing that's done after the RV's been prepared to leave. We hitch it up, and we're gone.
Okay, I'm looking at the diagram here, which just shows the two connected. So when you come back from a trip, you disconnected, the RV is off?
Well, there's another photo I took of different views from the road, and it shows one looking northbound, and I think you see it's only, it's by itself. It's one of the, I think, not that one, that's
connected.
I mean, that was just an old photo we had, and I think I put it in initially just to show, it's the next one, I think. No, next one. Yeah, well, there you can see from the front, that's just Lisa's car parked in front of it. So that, as you can see, there's plenty of room. So that one, the truck, the blue one, is beside it. It may look like it's in front there, but you can see the back of the truck overlaps. So all the vehicles away, within the property line, away from the street.
Do you have a garage on your property?
No.
No.
It's just an overhanging carport
Carport.
over part, just a small area, which is basically the front door.
So you still feel you can get visitor cars on that
Yeah.
tarmac?
Oh, it's big, yeah.
Okay.
7 or 8 cars for Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving.
with the RV. Yeah, it's a big driveway.
Commissioner Hugo?
So people driving on McCormick it would be visible, clearly visible to traffic and passersby. Just that one photo that you were showing there, it seems like it's.
From the northbound.
It's sort of, it's right there on,
Right,
trying to get the aesthetic
Sure.
consequence.
Coming southbound, it's completely not visible and
because
going,
of trees and
Right.
shrubs between the RV and the road.
yeah, and coming
Northbound,
northbound,
you get more of a view of it.
a glimpse, yeah.
But again, in the summer, when all the leaves are out, it's usually hidden better. From across the road, you saw the head-on view. It's, there's no houses there and no permanent
From the
residence.
Arboretum.
It's just the Arboretum. So.
Any other questions from commissioners? If not, I'll ask if there's anything you'd like to say in summation. I'll say if there's anybody here who wants to speak on this matter, but I don't see anybody else in the room, so I'll now ask you if you'd like to sum up everything.
Well, the only other thing is, aside from me saying that, if it wasn't there accessible in between trips and not being able to work on it myself, it would be prohibitively expensive to have every little thing done, by some shop, which again, you'd have to take it to. And again, that's more trips in and out. Also, so the expense would really be prohibitive for us to, both for extra storage, because it would have to be pretty much full-time all through the year. You can't just pick a week here and week there to take it out. It would have to be, continuous full-time storage, and that becomes very expensive. And so that's why, aside from the inconvenience, it would be, or the hardship of not having it accessible to work on, it would be, prohibitively expensive as well. And that's,
But I also want to say, in case it isn't clear, that when Peter's talking about working on it, he's not, it's not a mechanic shop. He's not doing, mechanics works with the hood up kind of thing on the driveway. He's doing things inside
most of it is inside.
in the RV. So it's
Like,
just your own personal need to do that, not a mechanical thing
Right.
that anybody could see that you're doing. So there's benefits to living in the location. We do, we love it, and we would not want to take away the beauty of where we live for anyone, and we truly feel this is not impacting anybody's view. We hope you'll see it that way.
I would understand if it was on a street like Central Park, where, we go up and down there a lot, and there's blocks of houses and front yards visible, for several blocks. And I would understand if there was an RV, a big RV, sat in one of the driveways, it would be a bit of an eyesore. But I feel that ours is pretty well hidden for the most part.
One quick question before I kind of close things up here. So you had stored it in Zion last time. Is that where you intend to continue to store it in the off-season?
Somewhere near there, yeah.
Yeah.
So 6 months is what you're really looking at? So
Yeah, because
is that something that we could consider as a condition for this?
I think so. I mean,
I just want to make sure, you're not talking about storing it year-round, because, I went by there several times actually from the north, and, I knew what I was looking for, but it was visible.
from the
And
north,
from the north, coming,
Coming,
how far north, can I ask how?
going north.
I was going south on McCormick, so I was coming from the north. Granted, the leaves are off the trees pretty much at this point. It's just been the last week or so, but, it's there.
Yeah. I think absolutely, we're not looking to have it there year-round. It's,
No, from the very beginning, in fact, that was one condition why she let me go ahead and get one, was that we don't store it there. So that's why I had to find the off-site storage.
yeah, but the
And
practical.
off-site storage for 6 months is doable.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
all right. All right. Any last thoughts before I close the record?
Unless you could, if there's something we're forgetting to share.
Any other crucial aspects that might sway your decision?
I think this is the first RV in a front yard that we've had as a case, so it's kind of new territory for us as well.
I am looking into whether they make custom covers for them that are disguised as bushes. Yeah, not camo, but bushes, Did you think of that too?
I was joking with Megan on the way down. I said, maybe we can have them camouflage it in some way with a screen or something.
I'm looking, I'm trying.
All
We
right.
came up with very many wacky suggestions, like hanging branches from the roof of it and stuff.
All right. So with that, we will close the public testimony and begin our deliberation on this. You can have a seat if you'd
Thank
like.
you.
Thank you. General thoughts from the commission?
Jeff, I just have a technical question. If this variation were to be approved, does it attach to the property? In other words, the next homeowner could also have an RV if they wanted? Does this become permanent easement type thing to the property? And, thinking about neighbors who may sell and say, gee, I'm not really keen. What's the consequence of this long term?
Variations do typically run with the property, but they're also typically related to permanent structures. So I think that is a fair point, that if you do not want it to run with the property, to add a condition stating that.
That would be my concern, that it's, right now, everybody's hunky-dory, and, it doesn't look great. Now, there's a gas station just further down, which it doesn't, so it's not like they're, I think as the applicant
And a
mentioned,
bank.
it's not in, on Central Street or something, but it's kind of an eyesore, frankly, but, okay, so we could make a condition that it run with the current owners only. Okay.
Yeah, I think that was kind of one of my concerns as well. So I think that, I would support that. And then also just the limited on-site storage for 6 months out of the year.
I have to say, I drove by a couple of times this week, and I don't love it. The idea is not really to have those things in the front yard. Obviously, it's mitigated. You don't face houses across the street, so that helps a great deal. And McCormick is a busy street, but as Commissioner Hugo observed, it doesn't look terrific. It doesn't look great. My question, I guess, would be really for Ms. Klotz is, if this is approved, does that set a precedent for any other homeowner who might want to have a RV sitting in their driveway if they have no alley access or anywhere else to store it? Or will it depend on the, what are the conditions or peculiarities of the lot itself?
It always depends on the exact situation and details of the property itself. So it wouldn't set a precedent. However, it does allow for an argument to be made in the future.
Are there any parts in the city where RVs are allowed? Or would this be the first example of an RV? I just don't see Evanston as an RV in the driveway type of place. And is there other place, are we aware of any other cases of
I am
RVs
not-
legally being in parking, in
I
driveways?
am not aware of any in front yards. I do know of one property that on and off temporarily has an RV on their front driveway. I assume as they're getting ready for trips, same type of thing. But for the most part, since Evanston does allow for storage in the rearmost 30 feet of the yard, and most properties in Evanston have alley access, I think that's why this situation hasn't come up previously.
We have someone in my neighborhood who has an RV that parks in the city lot on one of the parking spaces there. Yeah.
Can I ask Melissa, there's, is the city, or are you familiar with, there's an RV that's been parked, gosh, it's somewhere near, it's between Noyes and Foster, Sherman, Orrington, that area. And it appeared during the pandemic. I've seen these kind of pop up, Evanston, Rogers Park. I'll see them around. It looked like someone was working in it during the pandemic. This has not come up as far as like code enforcement.
Not that I'm aware of, and if it was pandemic related, I know a number of like doctors and nurses were doing that to quarantine from their families.
Yeah.
So it may have been that situation, but there have not been any zoning violations noticed relating to this. I have spoken to the one that I'm aware of that on occasion has it in their front yard, but they never have it more than a couple of days. But no official violation notices.
Is that the one on Old Orchard Road in Grosse Pointe? Because there's one right, there's one just west of Grosse Pointe, in front of the cemetery.
I'm not aware of that one. The one I'm thinking of is off of Dodge, north of the canal.
And when I ask, in part because looking at the standards, and I know we'll get to the standards in a couple minutes, but when I saw some RVs pop up in and around town around the pandemic, particular hardship, someone quarantining from their family, someone needing to work from home, having no way around it, their kids are in their house, the schools are closed, particular hardship, practical difficulty, yes. Wanting to own an RV, to take road trips, sounds great. maybe I'll be in that culture at some point in my life. Sounds like a good time, but as far as particular hardship, it really doesn't seem to pass muster as far as that standard, what's, going on with this case. And, but my other kind of broad comment is, the zoning ordinance to approve this, it's worded in a very binary manner. RVs are not permitted in front yards, and we're considering going completely against that. Whereas in many cases, it's kind of a gradation of, 30%. Well, can we go to 29%? Or can we kind of nuance the regulation a little rather than being kind of completely diametrically on the other side of it. So as far as the intent of the zoning ordinance, I would be uncomfortable supporting this for that reason as well.
All right. Anything else? I'll just say briefly before I look at standards, I think, whereas I'm not a fan of approving things like this, I also am looking, I think, at this particular home, this particular situation. I think where we really see, if this were a home along the stretch where you had large front lawns, and as you're looking down the large front lawns, you saw a camper parked there, I would have a much bigger issue with it than in this sort of a situation. In terms of like precedent setting, I don't think that it is, because I think this is a unique enough situation that it's going to be hard for people to come and make the same argument to us again. And I'm not a huge fan of asking forgiveness instead of permission. It sounds like they did try to get permission, though. They just went to the wrong people. The police department told them that it was acceptable when it is not. So with that, we do have standards that we have to go through. And they are the same standards that we just went through moments ago for the other case. So I will go through these once again in relation to this particular case. The requested variation will not have a substantial adverse impact on the use and enjoyment of property values of adjoining properties. We've heard from the applicant that the neighbor who seems to be would be most impacted by this does not have an issue with this. The fact that there are no homes across the street, and this is on a street which has homes that tend to back onto it as much as there are homes that face onto it. I believe that this standard is met. Number two, the requested variation is in keeping with the intent of the zoning ordinance. This one I have a bit of a struggle with. Again, like I said, I think the intent of the zoning ordinance is to prevent you from seeing large things. We don't allow cars in front yards. So I think, but I think the intent behind that really is in creating that, not having things sitting in an open front yard stretch. So I believe that this one is with the intent of the zoning ordinance, which is that it is as hidden as it can be and is not sticking out like a sore thumb as it would in many other parts of the city. The alleged hardship or practical difficulty is peculiar to the property. This one I think is pretty clear cut. This is because of the lot layout, the fact that there is no alley access off the back. There really is not a location for them to place an RV other than in the location that they have placed it. They're not asking to enlarge the parking pad. It already exists in its enlarged state. They have said that when they had Thanksgiving that they were able to fit roughly 7 cars on the lot, or on the parking, as well as the camper, and so therefore I believe standard 3 is met. Number 4, the property owner would suffer a particular hardship or practical difficulty as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were to be carried out. In this particular case, we've had lots of testimony about the ongoing maintenance that's involved in owning an RV or a camper. It does seem to me that it would be a hardship for them to have to constantly be going to and from Zion, which is where it would be stored, I'm assuming off-site, since that seems to be their preferred choice. I don't know if that's the only place that is available to them, but that's the place that they have selected. I believe that that standard is met. Number 5, the purpose of the variation is not based exclusively upon a desire to extract additional income from the property. There is no additional income that's being derived from the property. It's not like they are renting out the camper to people. So I believe that standard is met. The alleged difficulty or hardship has not been created by any person having an interest in the property. Again, this is one of those very gray areas. The homeowner did purchase an RV, and therefore the fact that they need to park it in their front yard does lie on them. However, like I said, I have no reason to doubt that they did try to do their due diligence by talking with the police department, who informed them that this was acceptable. And so I believe that that standard is met. And number 7, the requested variation requires the least deviation from the applicable regulation among the feasible options identified before the Land Use Commission. Really, this is the only option if the RV is to be on the property at all. There is no other place to put it. There's no alley access. There is no behind the house, things like that. So I believe that that standard also is met. I know that Commissioner Johnson probably is in disagreement with at least 1 or 2 of those. I don't know if you'd like to say anything in particular, or if your previous statement kind of says it all.
Yeah, 2, 4, and 6. I'm of the opposite thinking, but
All right. Commissioner Hugo, did you want to?
I've got an issue with 4 and 6 because I think your argument on the inconvenience piece was it's a long trip up to Zion. I get that. But I suspect there may be places that are closer to Zion, because as I understand it, the RV will be in the parking lot. It will be unattached to the truck. So whether it's unattached in the driveway or in a storage place 10 minutes away or 15 minutes away, it's the same work. So I think the inconvenience has been created by the fact that it's up in Zion, and I don't know, maybe that's the only place where you can store something within a 50-mile radius of Evanston, which, okay, fair enough. The reality is what it is, but I suspect that's not the case. So that's where my issue is with 4. And with 6, I mean, the hardship has been created by the owners. They bought an RV. And the fact that they, in good faith, called the police department, that's great. As you said, it's not begging for forgiveness. But the reality is, it's still in violation, and it was a hardship created by their desire to have an RV parked in their driveway. So I'm sympathetic to the applicants. They seem like very good people, and they're trying to do the best they can. But I don't know, I'm struggling with 4 and 6. Because I think we're trying to really shoehorn compliance with the arguments we're using.
Actually, no, you can't. The record has been closed, so. Anything else anybody wants to add?
Well, I think that the only way to try to somewhat, it doesn't really mitigate the issues with 4 and 6 particularly, is to include conditions that the vehicle could only, the RV could only be stored for no more than a 6-month period out of the year, and that the variation is only for the current property owners. I certainly agree with that, but I mean, I wouldn't, without those conditions, I couldn't support this either for, the reasons that Commissioner Johnson and Hugo have cited.
I think part of it is we try to maximize the leave coverage, coverage. And so would we be able to put they can have it no earlier than, I don't know, when do the leaves start coming out? April 15th through October 30th, when the leaves are gone, because that's kind of what, when Commissioner Winmo, when you were driving down, it was once the leaves are gone, it's.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there, right. So I suspect they're not going to be RVing. I mean, it's part of the compromise that we'd have to reach here, right? They can't have it all.
All right. The other condition that I heard mentioned other than the 6 months was a condition that if there were a change of ownership in the property, that this major variation would be sunsetted. Correct?
And again, I'd like to fix the dates.
That's fine, that's fine.
6 months is kind of nebulous, right? When's
Right,
it begin,
right.
when's it end,
So-
if that's
so-
possible.
Maybe May 1st to October 31st?
Does that-
Which I think is 5
and
months,
I'm going to
but-
ask for a point of clarification from them, so I do want you to respond. Are those acceptable dates to you? Yes, please come up so that I can hear your, so that your reply is picked up.
Well, if you're going to set that as being the only condition, then yeah, we have to accept it. The only thing is for us, it's not set. It's to, that's the only time we can start traveling, because that's in relation to Illinois. There's the South, which is a lot warmer, so it's possible to, go in March and. Well, we don't know. Right now we're thinking if we're allowed to keep it, a few more days in the driveway, we might prepare for a winter trip down south somewhere for, a week or two. I don't know if you can stipulate 6 months beginning when we take it out and then we'll put it away 6 months later, or whether that's.
That becomes very problematic from us from an enforcement
Yeah, I know.
standpoint, because we have to know when you take it out and then start the clock then. So I think having set dates, which to me, I think the May 1 through October 31 seems to be the most logical of that. And I mean, if you're a week over or a week early, I don't think anybody's going to come knocking on your door, but at least then we have dates that we can enforce.
Is 7 months unacceptable as being?
When we initially started talking about this, it was 6 months, so I don't
Okay,
want
no,
to
that's
start
fine, that's
creeping. Because you're getting, a lot of us are giving you the benefit of the
Right,
doubt on
okay,
this one.
that's fine
so.
then.
Chair Rogers, could I ask for some clarification on the storage time on the property when it is the winter months when it cannot be stored there? You can still temporarily park on a driveway, so they could still bring the RV to the property and have it there. Can you add a condition that clarifies how many days that would be allowed to not be in violation of the variation, should it be approved?
So what you're saying is, like, if they came on November 15th and were there for 3 days, unloading because that's when they got back from a trip or something like that?
Correct, just so that there is clarification for everyone.
Does that make it more difficult for staff in enforcing anything?
No, because the zoning ordinance does not have a set number of days. So I'm not sure how we would determine if it's considered the permanent summertime allowed storage or if it's considered temporary parking.
Yeah, that's what we were told when we were first informed of the violation, that you're allowed, a certain number of days before and after. Right. It's just not keeping it there the whole time.
Right. All right, you can have a seat, please. I'll open that up to anybody who wants to respond.
Isn't, when you're parking on the street, you only have like 7 days, if you're not a Evanston resident, you can only have a car parked there in the same spot for 7 days before the police actually can come and pick it up.
I actually think that it doesn't matter what your residency does not apply. I think that if car is, because we've called in abandoned cars in my neighborhood before, and they mark them, and 7 days later, they can be removed, yeah.
So that's what I was saying. Says,
So there's a 7-day window, if I'm not mistaken, that the Evanston
I
Police enforce.
don't think we want to have
Yeah,
7 days. I was thinking, more like 2. I'm not sure that 3 is,
I mean, So where I would prefer to go with this is for us to set our dates of May 1 through October 31. if a complaint comes in outside of that time, that be at the discretion of the zoning administrator, zoning staff as to whether it is a temporary thing? Because you're going to have to deal with any violation notice that comes. If somebody calls in a violation, you're going to have to deal with it anyway. Correct?
But isn't the problem, though, that means that although you have some set dates for when it is supposed to be stored off-site, if they can bring it in and park it temporarily, then you are just kind of extending that storage time. I think it's a little vague, and I can imagine with enforcement and everything else, that's going to be not a fun thing to deal with.
Chairman,
Yes.
I really do think we should add, if we're going to allow the temporary, some dates, 2 days, 3 days, makes it easier. The city's telling us that they would appreciate that because they don't want to get into a conversation. Is it 7? Is it 8? Is it 4? Is it 3? And, at the end of the day, I think we're really accommodating the applicant. They really are. I just can't see it as straight face. Oh, I guess I shouldn't say that. I certainly can't see how they complies with 4 and 6. So we're accommodating the applicant, and I think that they've got to be willing to, it is what it is. So I think we fix the dates, in my view, and then we would add, Commissioner Wendell, 3 days max, 2 days and I get that. They're coming back from Florida, they want to unload their stuff, take a couple days to, and then take it up to Zion. I get all that. So I would perhaps respectfully disagree with Chair that I think we do need some fixed date, some dates for the temporary piece.
But the temporary is allowed currently. There are no rules. I mean, I could park an RV in my front yard for 2 days while I loaded it up, correct?
Correct. And in my time with the city, we have not had a zoning violation proceed through the process. So I can't speak for exactly what would potentially happen in that scenario, but having a specific time frame would be helpful.
So are you looking for something along the lines of let's say, May 1 through October 31, anytime outside that window, it would be limited to 2 days?
Clarification like that would be great. Yes.
Okay. How does everyone feel about that? I mean, staff's the one who's going to have to enforce it. Anyone?
I'll just say that I think it would be cleaner if it could be kept off-site for those 6 months. But I understand the problem if you want to travel all year round, but that is the problem. You're an RV that you're bringing into a site that doesn't really allow for it. Not in favor of it.
It sounds like the city code allows for temporary, even if it's ill-defined, temporary loading and unloading, pre and post vacation, and that the compromise is already baked into the city code.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I'm interpreting it. But I'm looking to staff because they're the ones who are
Right.
going to have to enforce it. So anything that they would like to make it easier to enforce,
Right.
I'm willing to help.
I just feel that adding on top of that for a particular property owner, a 6-month window through which they could store an RV, and I know not everybody agrees with this, that is in violation of a couple of the standards for approval, I think is going much further than needs to be gone in terms of a compromise.
All right. So in looking at this and where we are, I don't think we'll be able to make a determination tonight anyway, based on my general feeling from.
Well, I mean, I guess we could put a motion on the floor to,
No, we will put a motion on the floor because the members who are not here will have to vote on that, but I don't think it's going to be resolved.
because you need more than 6 votes.
We need
Six.
5 concurring votes, because we're the determining body on this.
Okay.
And so that will change. There does seem to be some not willingness to go along with a temporary parking thing being part of the change here. So with that,
Excuse me, what do you mean, the temporary?
about putting in something about a 3-day,
I thought, I'm in favor of that.
I don't think Commissioner Westerberg is, though.
But I think you can put it to motion, and we'll see where it goes. I actually agree with Commissioner Johnson that maybe I could put up with the temporary storage, but then not have it parked there for the entire time, for 6 months. But it seems to me to be doing both is, it really stretches, I think, the standards a little bit.
I also think, to be fair, when we're saying that it'll be parked, that they have access from May 1st to October 31st, that doesn't mean that it is literally parked there from May 1st until October 31st. So,
So is it, and if that's something that we can then put into the motion, into the regulation? Or, but because my understanding was that we were telling them, yes, you can keep it there parked for those 6 months while you take it out, while you bring it back, while you service it. I think that's what the request was for.
But they're planning on 3-week trips, so there will be
Understood.
periods.
Understood.
that's the point I'm making, is that it's not going to be sitting there permanently parked from May 1 to October 31.
Understood.
But it could
Okay.
be. It could
It could be.
I mean, right,
Could
there's no,
be,
they
but-
may say, hey, we're not traveling this year, and it's sitting there for 6 months, so.
Yeah.
But that's already getting to pretty, it's going to be tough to micromanage that piece.
Yeah, well, and I think at some point when you have, I don't know how much these cost, but if you have it sitting there and you're never using it, it becomes, why am I keeping this? All right, let's go for a motion. I don't know who wants to make it.
Thanks, okay. I move approval of the requested major variation for 2505 McCormick Boulevard, 23 ZMJV-0064, with the following conditions: that the recreation vehicle only be parked on site from May 1st to October 31st, that the variation is only for the current ownership, and that in other periods that the temporary parking in the front yard, other parts of the year, be limited to 2 days on each occasion.
Okay.
So,
Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Arevalo, motion by Lindwall.
Mr. Chairman, would we be able to, could I offer an amendment?
Yes, you
to-
may.
And then we just vote on the amendment to eliminate the 2-day piece to address Commissioner Westerberg's issue and Commissioner Johnson.
So there's a motion, are you making an official motion?
I am making that motion. yes.
Okay, so Commissioner Huco is making a motion to remove the temporary parking for 2 days out of the main motion. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
There is a second. Any further discussion?
okay, so that then puts the issue back on staff to determine how much, what the appropriate amount of temporary storage off-site, during the
Right.
other times of the year.
Trying to give Commissioner Westerberg a chance to present that issue. But, if, I'm happy to withdraw that motion if.
So if we do not have that restriction, the applicant could still park on a temporary basis anyway, correct?
Correct. If
Okay.
the intention is that you do not want it on the property at all in the winter months, then that specifically needs to be a condition.
Okay, so basically my motion is actually taking us backwards.
Yes,
because-
I'm
okay,
sorry.
I don't know that it is taking us backwards, because I think the motion is a good motion. Because I think that it falls under the rules that everybody else lives by in the city, outside of that 6-month window that we're granting. And
But it does make life difficult.
But it makes, I mean, anybody who's parking an RV in a front yard, whether it be for a day, 2 days, 3 days, there's a potential that it would be reported to staff and they would have to police that.
But here we're making a huge exception, and it's going to be there for 6 months. I do think perhaps qualitatively it's somewhat different from, guy brings an RV
Oh, I
for 2
think
days
yes.
and that's it, and then 3 months later he shows up for a day. And this can have 6 straight months perhaps, and then, at least theoretically, and then, yeah, maybe I withdraw, maybe I withdraw my motion if Commissioner Westerberg does,
But
I do think we do need that 2-day thing.
But theoretically, wouldn't, if they wanted to, not even, we wouldn't have to permit anything, they could park their RV right now for 2 or 3 days, go on a trip, come back, park it another 2 or 3 days, go again, come back, and it's the same thing. So what we're granting them is the 6 months of not having to go pick up their, and hitch it back up and bring it all the way back down and do that motion back and forth. That's what we're granting. The other time, or the dates or the days that we're giving them is irrelevant because they already have the permission to do that. Am I correct?
That's my understanding of the current ordinance.
Right, the relevance is we're trying to help the city enforce it in the non-fixed period.
Correct. You do not have to give a limitation on the number of days in the winter months. It can fall to the general zoning policy, which at this time, there isn't an exact number of days. So ultimately, if it led to it, it would proceed through the violation process, and our violation process itself, to proceed all the way to administrative adjudication, typically takes about 6 weeks at the fastest. So it would be a difficult thing to enforce and could ultimately be on the property for 4 or 5 weeks, but then removed, and that means the violation resolved itself. And then that could keep reoccurring.
Chairman, I withdraw my amendment. I'm sorry to have confused things, but.
All right. Anything else? So currently, the motion on the floor is for approval to park May 1 through October 31. That any change in ownership of the property would cause this major variation to cease to exist. And that there be did you give an exact number of days? 2 days?
2 days.
2 days for loading and unloading.
Between
Outside.
November
November 1st
1st
to-
and April 30th.
Right. Okay. So that's the motion that stands before us. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aravello?
Yes.
Commissioner Hugo?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson? No. Commissioner Linwall?
Yes?
Commissioner Westerberg?
No.
Chair Rogers?
Yes. So I count a 4-2 vote in favor, which means that it's not resolved this evening. According to Illinois law, so on anything that we are determining body, there must be 5 consecutive votes. So what we will do at the next meeting is we will ask the commissioners who are not present here tonight to have reviewed the testimony and video for tonight, and then cast their vote. There will be no further testimony or anything like that. It's literally them casting their vote. We go until we reach 5 votes one way or the other. So currently the vote stands as a 4-2 vote. So if one person comes and votes yes, then it's approved. If the other people show up and all vote no, then it will not be approved. Your votes don't change? Our votes don't change. Our votes are recorded right now. And so it boils down to the commissioners who are not here. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, when does that happen? So our next meeting will be on December 13th. And so the 3 commissioners who are not here will hopefully be here at that point. and we will pull them until we get a final vote, 5, one way or the other. All right? So it's kind of in limbo for the next 2 weeks. All right.
Take their thing to storage.
But you can go to storage right now if you'd like. Okay, so that's the 2 cases we had on the agenda this evening. The other items that we have are communication. Is there any communication from anyone? I will call for public comment, although I will note for the record that the only people in the room are currently leaving, and the only other person sitting in the room is all staff or commissioners. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn? And I will note that the adjournment notice at the bottom of the agenda is incorrect. December 13th will be our next meeting, not the 29th. So is there a motion to adjourn until December 13th?
I move we adjourn until December 13th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? With that, we do stand adjourned until December 13th, 2023 at 7 PM in council chambers.